Hi, I'm Erin Brockobic, and welcome to Glad Day Drag Brunch! I was very much so out of my element, but every second of it felt like I was finally doing what I've always wanted to do. So this event started about 2.5 years ago. I brought the idea to Glad Day saying that I wanted to host a drag brunch. It's just a fun brunch where you get to eat, you get to drink, and you get to consume some drag. One time at brunch I had, I think, like a 7-month-old in the back of the room and a 73-year-old in the front of the room. And I loved that because that's such a strange dynamic. Strange dynamic, but lovely nonetheless. And what I really appreciate about drag brunch is it's sort of this equalizer in drag, in that it can bring folks from the west end of the city where drag is a little bit more experimental, and it draws obviously people from the village and the east end where drag can be a little bit more big hair, rhinestone outfits. And it's just this great mix and diversity of guests that I get to have at the show, and so I'm always grateful for the folks that get to join me. Being on stage was terrifying for the first time because I'm not someone who comes from a theater background. I don't come from a dance background. My education is in the teaching field. So I was very much so out of my element, but every second of it felt like I was finally doing what I've always wanted to do as my sort of artistic outlet. So when drag brunch was getting started, it really was not something that had ever happened in Toronto, at least consistently, and I believe even in Canada consistently. And it was a little terrifying to be such a new performer, but then also expect people to be coming every single week. It's scary. And I remember those first few months, I was constantly waking up worried and telling myself, like, today no one's gonna come. Like, I'm gonna come and no one's gonna be in the audience and no one's gonna like me, and all these, nasty things that we tell ourselves when we take on new initiatives and we try new things. So, and it just slowly built, and now it's this 2-seating show. And I'm very proud of the work that was involved in building the show. So Glad Day Bookshop as a venue is actually the oldest existing LGBTQ bookstore in the entire world. So in choosing the space, I was mindful of Glad Day's social activism. So their openness to the entire LGBTQ plus spectrum, the activism work that they do for different, not just authors, but even just folks in the community. I just felt like it was the right fit. The whole Eastern European businesswoman, lady of the 80s, comes from my upbringing. So I have always idolized my mom. I always watched her doing her makeup. I even sometimes will do specific colors to mimic her makeup. And I've seen photos of her from the 80s. She has this amazing puffed up hair. And I've always just sort of modeled myself after that. So I actually got my start doing a competition at a bar. And that was really the only way that you could get your start. But now more and more open stages are happening. Diverse performers are getting stage time. The drag king scene in Toronto is definitely building. What I would tell someone who's performing for the first time, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Have a point and a reason for performing, because that will always carry you through, even through the hardest times of when you're saying to yourself, like, I don't even want to be here, this crowd doesn't like me. There's so many things that can negatively affect you, but I really think having that clear vision and that mission helps to sort of take away all of those worries.